Oh, Princess Shuri, you thought that you were slick. You thought that you could just masquerade as just another important backstory piece for Brook, but I see you for who you really are. So much more than just that. A key to the greatest power in One Piece, a child of destiny, a member of the Davy clan that a war is about to be waged over. And so, in good One Piece YouTuber etiquette, I first must ask the question, is Shuri being set up here to join the crew? My answer may surprise you, but I'll also hold off on that aspect and cover first why this is even a topic of discussion to begin with. Because honestly, I do understand why some people are asking the question. I kind of took a quick step back because, I'm an athlete like that, and when I looked at her story through the target lens of Straw Hat candidate and all the stuff attached to that, my girl actually stands out quite decently. What I mean by that is that at the very least, she checks a surprising amount of numbers of boxes that are kind of sort of unofficially now required for becoming a crew member. For example, our little war drum girl here has an undeniably tragic backstory, and it's only getting more and more depressing with every single chapter. She's from a fallen kingdom, she was forced to slice and dice her pops real good, her mom is either evil, dead, or evil and dead, and if that wasn't enough for you, she's being now possessed and mind controlled by the big bad of the entire series. Imu's had this poor little princess under his weird tattooed finger for way too long, almost 80 years, and much like Robin being forced to survive alone after Ohara, or Nami being trapped beneath Arlong's equally weird but slightly less tattooed hand, the former Princess Shuri is a character whose life has largely been dominated by forces outside of her own control. Of course, we all know at this point that freedom is like one of the most central themes in all of One Piece, right? Hence the warrior of liberation guy bouncing around causing trouble across the entire timeline. And now it truly seems like there are very few characters in the final saga who actually seem to need freedom more than Gunko. And based on her fear of Nika that she expressed actually very early on during the Elbaf arc, I kind of wonder if Imu's influencing her to fear him because ironically, she kinda needs him. I mean, that's like the first lesson of male manipulation 101, which I assume they do teach at Evil Bad Guy School in anime. As for Gunshot's chances of crew duty here now, well, it also is becoming super clear that she's also incredibly important now to the larger narrative unfolding in the endgame of the story, right? Like, I hope you see the same thing that I'm seeing, because unlike many side characters who appear for just a single arc before then, fading into the background and into irrelevance, looking at you, Rebecca, I do not believe that Gunko is just some random bad guy or random, princess to be saved in just one arc right here on Elbaf. No, Arrow Lady here is tied directly to Imu himself. She's a highly regarded member of the Holy Knights, princess of the former kingdom of Hesperia, of course directly involved in Brook's past, and potentially a key player in the mystery surrounding the Mother Flame. More on that after this truly diabolical commercial break first. Alright, quick change of room and topic as well. I don't think I'm alone if I'm fantasizing sometimes that I want to be just as powerful as some of the Straw Hats, just mowing down some enemies left and right. And that's why I'm very glad that I got to work with today's sponsor, Blizzard Entertainment, and their game Diablo Immortal, a free-to-play mobile game that lets you step into the shoes of an absolute fantasy hero. As soon as you download the game, you're right into the action, taking control of classes like the classic Barbarian, the Shapeshifting Druid, or the Storm-powered Tempest to take down waves of enemies. And as a massive fan of the Diablo series, I just really feel like in these games I'm also kind of raiding Onigashima, just crushing my enemies like this, and as a One Piece fan in general, you do know that I'm really deep into some world building, and Diablo Immortal is just absolutely in the prime spot for this. The entire series is this dark, epic fantasy world filled with monsters and magic and tons of amazing lore. You might even make some nakama and build a crew along the way, jumping in with friends to take down some massive bosses together. This raid shall not fail. I gotta say, the level progression in this one feels super satisfying, constantly gaining new equipment and skills, and you don't even need to take a 2-year time skip to get stronger here. You can feel yourself getting better and better as you go beyond the basics to actually master the gameplay. Now, my elite gamers out there will already know that Diablo is of course a very iconic franchise, but this is an all new way to experience it on the go, even if you're just brand new to the series in general, general, so if that sounds interesting, go check out Diablo Immortal using the link in the description below or the QR code on screen, and use the code ZergRush to get free legendary gear and crests when you install it today. Thanks again to Blizzard Entertainment for sponsoring this part of the video, and now, speaking of, let's get back to that. Alright, so I think we can fairly safely say that Gunko here is gonna run for quite a bit. Every new chapter seems to reveal another layer to her being important and who she is as a character. I mean, Oda is very clearly, I would argue, investing a lot in Gunko stocks, and I do think the reason for that is because she could be something that I've actually discussed in a previous video, a double agent, but not quite in the way that I initially thought it might happen. If she gets recruited before solving the get Emu out of her body problem, Emu may be able to just use Gunko to actually spy on the Straw Hats as they approach Laugh Tale and the final saga. And that would of course make her immediately a very interesting and hot contender for a crew member, since, you know, Luffy's personal goal with her would tie directly into his Gear 5 powers and liberating the abyssal influence that she's possessed by. I also gotta admit that personally, I just kinda really love the idea here of Emu spying on the crew through Gunko. I mean, the dynamic is set up pretty perfectly. Zoro and Robin are being very skeptical, Sanji, Luffy, and Brook being fully trusting. Maybe Shuri could be Jinbei's close buddy, I don't know, man. I just think it's like the perfect setup for a gimmick that Oda really hasn't played with yet. The entire, like, you know, spy thing inside the Straw Hats. I know there's been like an argument that, you know, maybe Zoro might leave the crew, but he's never been like a spy. And since everyone and their mom seems to have spies in all the Yonko crews, you kind of have to ask, is someone in the Straw Hats a spy? We all obviously know that none of the current crew members, like, that would be the greatest twist of all time, but having a new, you know, crew member be a spy would make a lot of sense. Especially an unwilling and unwitting spy at that, who doesn't even realize she's doing it. There's also then the fact that she isn't currently easy to recruit either. I mean, historically, all the Straw Hats additions have kind of been characters who initially stood in opposition to Luffy because Zoro wasn't about joining Luffy, Nami stole from him, Usopp didn't want to leave Syrup Village, and Sanji was just planning to stay on the Baratie and needed a kick in his butt as well. Obviously, Robin was just a straight-up villain working for Crocodile, Frankie fought the Straw Hats on multiple occasions and beat up Usopp, Jinbei spent years aligned with the powers that were technically their enemies, though I guess his is kind of like the weakest there. Chopper also didn't intend on leaving his island and joining them at first at all, like Correa needed to kick his butt as well. The only exception, really, weirdly enough, sort of, is Brook, but he really needed to get recruited after his shadow was returned, and the crew wasn't initially about doing that either, so it was kind of like a flipped situation here. So the fact that Gunko is currently one of Imu's servants, but, like, very much unwillingly because apparently they're suppressing their memories, kind of puts her in the exact kind of position that Oda really enjoys clearly writing new crew members from. So, I mean, I guess that's that. You could just say she's a perfect candidate, right? Nah, alright. So, I mean, she's a really solid one, I will say. I'll give you that. But even I, Mr. Crackpot himself, am not fully convinced. As you know, I have talked about certain people that I really wanted to join the crew. I'm still heartbroken about Yamato, still holding on to hope that she'll join. I'm very much holding out for Loki because I feel like he would fit very well, but with Gunko, I'm like skeptical. My biggest reason here, well, like one thing is kind of missing from her entire character profile pretty blatantly. Luffy doesn't know Gunko at all so far. Like, no amount of Luffy has expressed any interest at all whatsoever in recruiting Gunko. The dude has not even interacted with Gunko. And that's of course because Gunko currently feels less like a future crew member and more like a central objective that will, well, save the world. Alright, I know that sounds weird, let me explain. Her story to me doesn't really feel like it's moving towards joining Luffy's Nakama and sailing onwards towards Laugh Tale. I think it's veering very hard left into plot device territory right now. Like, she has all those key elements of a crew member, no doubt, but so do many other characters. Shirahoshi, Vivi, Carrot, they all have necessary components of becoming a Straw Hat, but they all served a much different, much grander purpose. And sure, comment section, right? Come and say Vivi is a different story. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, hopefully Vivi joins, but we haven't seen it yet. And my point is a different one. Gunko is less likely to be a Straw Hat for a variety of reasons, and I think that's all good and fine, because I actually do think that she's way more important than most of the crew when it comes to the overall plot and history of One Piece. And that's of course all thanks to our music man, Brook. His connection to her continues to deepen and deepen, and if emu plans truly revolve around her very existence and doing something with that, then Gunko could be the key to dismantling emu's 800-year scheme to, I don't know, dominate the world and sculpt it in his image. I guess, he's a bad guy, his plan is probably bad, or I don't know, maybe Oda's gonna come and do something much more nuanced with it, which I'm kind of expecting, but at least his plan is probably bad. That's what matters. So if not to serve the Mugiwara agenda, and what even would Gunko's role on the crew be, I don't know, why is Funky Gunky so important then? Why did the Celestial Dragons personally take her? Why has Emu seemingly invested so much time and effort into controlling her and turning her into his, I guess, priest or maiden? And what do I think ties her directly to Shamrock and Shanks? Well, it's actually pretty simple, because I do believe that Shuri here is also a child of destiny. So why do I think that? I kind of hear your brains pontificating, and I shall free you from that burden. I don't know, I went super dramatic here. What's wrong with me? Anyhow, as we keep seeing the tale of Brook and Shuri unfold in this flashback, which, by the way, just to point it out, because maybe I haven't said it yet, I have been enjoying immensely. I know it's not exactly what the people who are looking for crazy cool fights and new reveals every single chapter are hoping for, but this to me is peak One Piece. More Straw Hat backstories, giving way more depth to the characters that we love the most. I absolutely dig it. Anyways, with this flashback, I really can't help but think that it's low-key still kind of sketchy, right? I kind of find it very difficult to believe that Shuri is just this run-of-the-mill tragic princess whose kingdom just happened to fail. It does feel awfully deliberate, if you ask me, especially after what we found out in chapter 1185. But you know who maybe seems the most suspicious? That's that weird dude in the throne room when Reuven dies. Who are you, man? What's your deal? Well, we're gonna do a whole video about this guy in the next video on Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. So not him, I'm talking about the second most suspicious, which is the baddest baddie in Asperia, Mama Queen Candel. Okay, I sure as hell can't be the only person who thinks that this woman may be kinda evil, and I think that this chapter is a very big 50-50 here. Either she's just been totally cleared of anything, or totally is crazy suspicious, and I hate that I really can't tell yet which one it is. Just to be clear, her overall appearance and demeanor seem oddly reminiscent of the Holy Knights and the upper nobility of the world government, right? And the role of the Gorosei appearing, right? I kind of think that she's gotta be a member of the Holy Knights, the missing member around this time period who we didn't see during God Valley later on. Now, I come to that conclusion because we do know there are supposed to always be 13 upper-level Covenant wielders of the Abyss Mark at any time, and we do know 12 of them were there during God Valley. The Knights present and the Gorosei add up to a nice 12, so one person is weirdly unaccounted for, and I do think that that's because she was killed after failing her mission. Because if it's not that, why else is Candel important? She's a totally unnecessary addition to the plot if she's just a good person who helped out Brook and then died. She doesn't need to be a role model for Brook. She doesn't need to be Gunko's mama. She doesn't need to have this romance for Reuven. Quite frankly, the whole flashback could work really well if it was just Reuven, unless there is a reason why it can't, which is the reason why I really feel like there has to be something else going on with her, or else it's just kind of Loki 2.0, right? Let's be real. Their stories, both these flashbacks in Elbaf are just remarkably similar. Dead mother, royal dad, possessed by Emu, you kind of get it, right? Now, Kendall seems different to me. Her illness feels kind of suspicious. The circumstances surrounding Asperia's downfall obviously giga suspicious, whether it's Kendall or someone else. So you're gonna tell me the fog of doom rolls in right after they get engaged? Yeah, I don't think I can let that one slide. I kind of have a gut feeling that we're missing a very important piece of information about who Kendall truly was before she became Queen of Asperia. I think it's very possible that she was maybe sent to create something, well, more like someone, and then recruit them into the world government properly. The Child of Destiny, Princess Shuri. Because I think that Shuri was no accident, despite the fact that Reuven seems, like a very passionate man who would throw caution to the wind. I do think that Kendall had a mission to create an heir that was half Celestial Dragon, half Davy Clan. Now, I already covered this in my Davy D. Brooke video here, which you guys seem to really like, which made me really happy, but I do think that there's currently a good chance that Reuven is obviously a Davy Clan member because he's just got the same design, the same hair, he's got the right size, and obviously he's also from the West Blue where the Davy Clan settled down in God Valley as well. But we also know that the Davy Clan was a top target for Emu since always, basically. They want them eradicated. But also, it's a fairly high chance that Shanks and Shamrock are also part Davy Clan members, right? Their mom apparently was from God Valley, and while I guess that she doesn't have to be, it definitely feels like that's the angle Oda has been taking things in, right? I don't know, maybe? I feel like that seems at least a fair assumption to make at this point. So, Shuri, being half Davy also, would explain why she wasn't just taken as a slave, but by Emu themselves as their personal vessel, I guess. And now imagine combining that bloodline with a powerful Holy Knight or Celestial Dragon family, and suddenly Shuri becomes something truly extraordinarily rare. The descendant of the 20 kings and a powerful lineage with some grand importance in the world, a birthright that Emu very clearly fears. So, here's what I think actually happened. I think there's a good chance that Kendall is sent to Asperia Kingdom deep undercover, like a classic CP9 Water 7 situation, right? She may have been sent for a plethora of reasons here, but mostly to see if the bloodline in charge is actually of the Davy Clan. Then, at some point, she can confirm that. Emu's all like, oh my goodness, Kendall, you did amazingly. I love you, girl. Now you gotta go have a baby so I can actually finally get my hands on one of those Davy Clan lineage people. That's definitely how Emu talks, by the way. Don't look at me like that. You know that's true. Anyways, Kendall, a faithful servant of God, says, of course, yeah, I got you, no big deal, immediately heading there. So Kendall then infiltrates, becomes a top warrior of the guard, leads the battle convoy, and looks just fantastic and beautiful doing it all. Eventually then, winning the heart of the prince, Reuven, and at some point she also meets our sweet boy Brook, and we do see the rest unfold in chapters 1184 and 85. Except that we don't. You might have noticed, but this chapter specifically bounces around a lot, man. And I mean, that's fine, but it also leaves a lot of ambiguity surrounding Kendall and the true nature of events happening here, which, importantly, isn't normally Oda's whole MO unless he wants to reveal more later on. Remember God Valley during Kuma's flashback? That could have been a lot more, but so much was left out on purpose for the sake of it returning and being fully fleshed out during Elbaf. I mean, come on, the guy left Blackbeard and Eddies out of the Kuma version so he could make the massive reveal for Zebek, of course. Or that Emu was there, etc, etc. This Kendall ambiguity in this flashback is kind of pointed, I think. To me, it kind of goes two ways here. Kendall does die, and she broke her agreement with Mu, actually falling genuinely in love with Reuven and dying, or she lives secretly after staging her own death. Well, I guess she could also just have been a sacrificial pawn killed for the crossbreeding, but I kind of doubt that option because of old Garling still sticking on after having his darling boys with a commoner. To be fair, I don't know if Emu knows about who their mother is, but you'd assume so. And so ultimately, that's why I believe that Gunko here is a half Devi, half Celestial Dragon powerhouse, putting her in the same position as Shamrock Shake and Shanks Shake. Didn't really work out as well as I thought it would. Anyways, why would this be so crucial to the story? Why would Emu need Gunko to be special? This like super strong half-breed kind of thing. There's gotta be a better term for saying this. Kind of feels icky to say, but I also don't really know what other word works. Anyway, now something that we do know about Oda's storytelling is, of course, that he loves his family bloodlines. Quite frankly, some are just built better than some others, like clan names keep popping up throughout the ages. The Nefatari, the Kozuki, the Monkey very clearly super cracked, the Figurlins. Clearly, Davy is a top-tier important one out here since it's another D-clan and the clan that Blackbeard and Zebek are from, so I kind of think it's only natural that Emu would be trying to get his hands on this blood or something. Probably something with inherited will or lineage factor, like the stuff that Vegapunk discovered. That's kind of why I think that the Davy clan is key to Emu's plan as well. Or at the very least, even if all this Davy stuff is wrong about Gunko and Shanks, then clearly there is something about them being half like commoner from the West Blues thing, half Celestial Dragon, that seems to really matter. So, really thinking about it now, perhaps there are descendants who carry something unique, like the blood of the Half Moon that we found out about in the Harley text. Or is it like a yin-yang balancing situation, like some of the good, some of the bad? I don't know, man. Like, all I do know is that Emu is doing some weird stuff, and we gotta talk about it. One of the stranger realizations I've had recently is that Emu doesn't really behave like someone trying to conquer the world. Hell, he doesn't even behave like a powerful god king just trying to maintain order. He's incredibly calculated, and like, I surely am not the only person wondering why he has to be that. Right? Like, sit down for a second. Just really, okay, lock in here with me. Like, if you're eating, that's fine, but let's be honest for a second. If Emu is truly as powerful as all these recent chapters do suggest, which is absolutely crazy, why wouldn't he have already won? Like, I'm being completely serious here. It's like a genuine thing I'm completely baffled by. Between the insane power of Omen, Domi Reversi, the incredibly high limits of killing him and the other Holy Knight's powers, not to mention that the Gorosei are absolutely powerful and the world government also possesses other overwhelming military dominance through the Marines and Cypher Pole, Emu should be able to just win and clean the slate, right? Like, if Emu just decided during Fishman Island, oh, the time has come now, I shall rule with force, shouldn't he just absolutely be able to do exactly that? So why are we still having any conflict? Why do the good guys still have a chance even? And why is he so busy pulling strings like a godly puppet master? Why all the manipulation? You know what I mean? Like, why is he so coy about ridding the board of the D-Clan and all these key pieces? Why all the secrets and the fake democracy? Why wage a centuries-long game of chess when, it seems like he already won? Well, I mean, we do know, for example, that Vegapunk said that this war has never actually ended, which to this day is like a very interesting thing to say. I also think that Asperia might be showing us the true reason that Emu can't just win straight out yet. And the reason is that I don't believe that he currently has the keys to the car, despite what we may all think, or at the very least he hasn't until after Egghead Island. Notice how when Asperia falls, it isn't immediately annihilated. Like, he doesn't just rip a Lulucia Mega Blaster or a Ohara style Buster Call. Instead, it is weakened, stripped of its primary export and economic strength, and then consumed in a slow fog of dismay that's kind of sickening the citizens and taking away their vitamin D, I guess, which totally adds to be the idea that Asperia is Thriller Bark, right? Just in the Florian Triangle, a place that I now kind of think was totally made by Emu also. And yeah, I know that that's a wild idea and deserves kind of some deeper exploration by itself as we add destructive fog of capitalistic destruction to Emu's power list. Maybe. The Gorosei's goal, it wasn't destroying Asperia, it was just controlling the population by converting them into laborers, servants, and ultimately slaves. Cool, I guess, like at first glance this simply looks like tyranny. What's the big deal here, Manu? Well, it's kinda stupid when you think about it. Like, why do that? Just because you're evil and you like messing with people? No, I don't think that's Imu's goal. I think there just has to be, in some way, a practical reason behind all of that. When you really think about it, execution is incredibly rare in One Piece. Why? Like, not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but you know what I mean, right? The evil government. Why keep so many people alive down in Impel Down, but then kill Roger and Ace out of all people publicly? I think that it's all about control so that these slaves, these prisoners, can be used as fuel. Fuel for a forbidden fire, a mother flame that's finally been completed and needs a key to be activated. A child of destiny, or maybe even a couple, such as Shanks, Shamrock, and yes, our dear Princess Shuri. Alright, Manu out here again throwing some wild stuff suddenly at the wall. Why do I believe that? Where did all of this suddenly come from? Well, it's of course because of my sexy ex-girlfriend, the mural from chapter 1138. Editor, can you please pan over to the right side for me? Zoom, enhance, okay, zoom out a bit, you went a little bit too far. See those figures harvesting the Forbidden Sun here? Going into the planet with those halos resembling the Omen phenomenon that we've recently seen Imu start handing out? Now, I want you to read the Harley text for me, will you? Mankind touched the sun, the enslaved people prayed. Well, what do we have here? It's almost like Imu is trying to repeat history, enslaving the people of this world so they can harvest the Forbidden Sun, or I guess in our case, the Mother Flame that's being worked on. They use the Omen to touch it, grab its powers, and then use it as an offering or an energy source. Could that be Imu's plan? Turn mankind into cattle who will then also become fuel and the building blocks for his utopia that he clearly wants to build? I would say that is so much worse than just killing everyone. But I do think it also makes a lot of sense with what we've learned in the story, especially when you consider that Imu has been waiting. His new Forbidden Sun has just been completed, finally, and now he's going around trying to recruit and collect powerhouses like Loki for the Holy Knights and dealing with threats like Luffy and presumably Shanks and Blackbeard, because Imu just has been growing an army of slaves and fuel and prisoners and kingdoms subservient for him for all this time. Again, really think about it. If the Forbidden Sun is a literal energy source, then of course somebody has to harvest it. But then the question is, how does this all tie into Shuri? I can already hear you saying all that. I hope. If not, the voices are back. Oh god. Well, I do think it's similar to something that I proposed about characters like Momo, Shirahoshi, and Vivi in the past, because I used to believe, or well, sometimes still believe, that to use the ancient weapons like Pluton, Uranus, and Poseidon, there's a human component and then a more like engineering machine component to it, like Noah and Poseidon, Momo with Pluton, and then probably Vivi and her rain connections from Alabasta and Uranus. But what if that very same concept also applies to the Mother Flame? What if to truly use its full power and its might, you need a Child of Destiny? Davy clan members with their special bodies who can wield this fire's unique power, suddenly having abyssal covenants with Shanks, Shamrock, and Gunko is gonna pay some massive dividends and come in real handy. Your own flame bearers, Imu, that they have been prepared for you by your own Holy Knight families. And now it's time for you to lead a flaming crusade against freedom itself. It would absolutely explain why Imu preserves them rather than eliminating all of these people, allowing Shanks to still roam free and placing such importance on Shamrock. It would also explain why Gunko was taken directly to the Celestial Dragons despite just being another princess on paper. Mostly, it could also explain why this character who appears during Elbaf is so important to Imu and to the crew, because she is a key. She can be fought over It's all about numbers because Shanks is the only one on the good side, Shamrock on the bad side. The battle over Gonko then could be a determining factor for which side Luffy or Emu actually gets access to the unsettling might of that big old pink ball of fire. So Shuri may not just be another princess, a holy knight, or even a straw hat contender. She might just be the key to Kingdom Hearts. I mean, the key to the Mother Flame. And you know what's crazy? That's just exactly what's happening on Elbaf. But meanwhile, out on the big old ocean of One Piece, there's a ton of other stuff going on with characters like Marco, Teach, Shanks, and yes, even Dragon. Don't forget about him. He does some stuff too, sometimes, I think, yes. And if you want to know what all of them are doing right now while Luffy and Loki are facing Emu and what we might have in store for after Elbaf wraps up, then you should really check out this video where I break that down in a lot of depth. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Thanks again to Diablo Immortal for sponsoring this video, link below, and thanks to our fantastic Patreons, and I will hopefully see you in the next video on Tuesday where we talk about this guy here. There's a little space on screen.